2022 was in 2012 was because my husband comes from a gelato making family in Germany. He was born in Germany by Italian parents. And they had a few stores, and the cousins also still ran the stores, but his father decided when he was retired to come back and sell everything.
Right.
So he came back, but he has always missed the he has always missed the business,
Right,
the ice cream, because he grew up from the age of 0 to 15, I think. It was so he missed that environment.
Right.
And so when we met, we were randomly talking, what you do, and then I started to understand better what was his background. It was in between he had changed job, but we started to talk about lives. So he told me that he's making how to make he knows how to make the ice cream. At least he's been into this, never made because he was too young. Then he went back to Germany at the cousin's place for a short period of time. So at that time he was making the ice cream. But at least, he comes from that culture. So I proposed it. I said, why don't we try in India and open an ice cream store? It was like something more fun than, a real project.
Yeah.
And he said yes. So I said, okay, so we tried. We started with a very limited amount of money because we didn't want it to invest too much, since, we didn't know the result, and we didn't know how Indians would have accepted this. 12 years back, gelato was like something very exotic.
Right.
So when we opened in Cochin, because at that time, I have a company in Italy who imports carpets and doormats.
Right.
And jute bags from Calcutta. So since 20 years, I started this business, and it's still running. And so I decided to buy the ice cream. I said, let's go to India to start the ice cream business, while I also travel for my own business.
Right.
So when we decided this, I spoke to my suppliers. They were all very excited about this, and they decided to help me. So one of them came back with a proposal on a property one of his friends had on rent, which is the shop we have in Cochin.
Yeah.
And we still run the shop in Cochin. So we came, and then initially he moved, and I was going back and forth for about 5 years, until when we had a baby, and then after the baby was born, and you have to be more settled, so we decided to settle in India. So now I have full hands in this, but I also have my Italian company still running.
Right.
And that's why we chose India. It was just a little bit by chance, and I think it has been a great choice, because today any other state, first of all, the other states would have anyway made me to compromise my previous work.
Right.
And so instead is now I'm still close to my suppliers. If I need to meet them, or if they have something new, they come over, or I go there. So it's still, it's easier. It's easier.
So,
I didn't want it to work in a corporate.
Right.
So I said, let me travel a little bit, but travel you need money.
Yeah.
So I applied for cruise lines.
Right.
And for 3 years I was permanently employed by an American cruise line. And I traveled the world, so I had to see a little bit of the hospitality. I was in the travel desk, so not proper hospitality for the food and B, for the F&B, but I was more into the travels. But it was a nice experience. I could see some of the other insights better, so I learned how to deal in hospitality with different cultures.
Right. So how did you...
Or be a store manager. It's a great experience because it exposes you to public.
Right.
And public is very, it's more or less the same all over the world. They have their difficulties, they have their psychologies, they have their own up and down. So if you learn to do something with the public, even a bookstore, anything, you don't have to think, oh, I'm graduated, I spent so much money in university, and now I need to do something up hard. No, you can even do a job that for 2-3 years it will it will be an experience. So I decided for 3 years, and I put myself as a deadline. I was 28 when I left, so I put myself a deadline of 28. I said by 28 I want to have a maximum exposure to world. So I could travel on the cruise ship. There were Indian maids because they were like waiters. They were working in the engine. There were Filipinos. There were Italians as a captain, staff captain, officers. Hotel manager was Austrian. The colleagues were from America, Australia, South America, Central America. So it was really, we had about 30 nationalities. And this, I learned more in 3 years working there than in the other 5 years at university. Because universities will give you only concepts and a methodology of work, life, priority studying. But it won't teach you anything about life.
Right.
So the moment you come out of the university, if you don't think out of the box, you'll be one of the 3 million engineers in the world today, and they will not create anything new. You know, you have to think out of the box. So you need to have another experience in between, and that's what I think made me open to India, because most of my friends who have entered directly toward the corporate world, and then they would not even think of leaving and traveling to India. At that time, 20 years back, India was still towards the Second World War, you know, like, you know, it was not, you know, yet developed like today. And so everyone was like, oh, you're going to India, you're going to India. But I was traveling, so I said, I'll try. 20 years back, first time I came to India to buy carpets, it was a disaster. There were barely no pavements on the roads, especially in UP, those places in remote areas.
Right.
If you go to Calcutta, Delhi, you know, it's been all, 50, 60 since the English left. But other places in the countryside, there was no concrete, nothing, no asphalt, nothing. So it was very difficult to adjust. But I had the experience of traveling and doing other experiences before, thanks to the cruise line world.
Right.
And I was fine. In fact, Indians were surprised to see a woman traveling at 29, 30 years old, and I was fine. I had no problem. In fact, I came to India first time in 2014, 2004, 20 years back.
Right.
Yeah, it was that was the first experience there. I read somewhere that there is a say. I don't know if I have it on my notes, but it's really. I took a note one day. I read it somewhere. Let me see if I can see this issue. That behind every successful entrepreneurship, there's always someone who has taken a courageous decision.
Right.
So it's just that you have to evaluate. We evaluated pros and cons, but we said the cons of being unsuccessful was still smaller than the cons of being in Italy at the beginning of a very heavy recession. So my husband was working in a company, and at that company in 2011, it started to not to go well. So he had two choices: either to use his German language skills and to go back to Germany or abroad, or in Italy, no one would have employed someone someone of 40 or 38, 40 years old at that age. So I told him, let's listen, it's a great opportunity to do an entrepreneur's choice and to go to try what you've learned so far.
Right.
So I think he was, rather than going to Germany and doing another job, it would have been. So even if we were not successful in Cochin at that time, anyway, we would have been, the worst would have been that we would have lost 50, 60 lakhs and come back and work as a job in Europe. And still, the reason I also kept my company open was right for this, because my plan B could have been there.
Yeah. So I like to drop it.
In the gelato is too high. So what happened? They want to have a cheaper, they would like to serve a cheaper ice cream, but the government's cost regulations and taxes
Force them to
force them to even rent, forces them, and mainly rent, but mainly is the cost of the employee. So if an ice cream store is open from 8 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock at night, you need like 3 shifts in Italy.
Right.
So 2.5 shifts, and the cost of employment is too high. So for them, they needed to be forced to increase, and raw material costs also increased. So in India, the raw material cost is higher than in Italy because you have to import the goods.
Right.
So it's higher than in Italy, but the employment cost is lower. So we try to keep a balance between the two, but what we try also to do is to keep, since it's an emerging economy, and you cannot put some food at a very high price. In an emerging economy, you have to understand there are different segments of people, and we are targeting the medium class to the higher class. So it means the medium class is the children of a certain class that could not afford to go to high school, now is going to high school.
Right.
And maybe to university, so they need to afford. Their parents, they would never think of buying an ice cream when they were 15, 16.
Right.
But now they won't, because they use mobile phones, they use internet, they use a lot, they know what's happening outside of the world. So, and gelato is one of the funniest and the things that you don't take your new girlfriend or potential girlfriend for a date to a cafe or a restaurant. You take it to an ice cream store. So we have a lot of dates, first time dates here, or in any of our stores. It's very common, and because it's something very casual, funny, if someone wants an ice cream, or someone wants a slice of cakes, so it's really transverse. And another factor is also ice cream. It's a family target. So you get families with children and grandchildren as close as 1 year old, to grandparents as close to 85 years old or 90 years old. So it's very, very common to see extended families to come to Milano, and this is so important, because if a family of 6 people, if you keep an ice cream very high, they won't come. They will think it's a treat. But if you keep it nominal, at the end you work on volume rather than working on absolute cost. You work on volume, and if you have a larger volume, you can have a lesser costing.
Right. So
they don't like it. So. For example, I read every day the Google reviews, and out of 10 reviews, maybe there is out of 30 reviews, there will be one review that will say, I don't find it nothing special, because that maybe they used to their typical ice cream, which is solid, thick, creamy. It's not creamy, it's full of vegetable oils, but it makes your stomach full. And instead gelato, it's something light. It's healthy. It's very light. And you can have one ice cream, but even if you have the second ice cream, you won't feel sick. That's why we say, even the fact of having a sour throat, and you eat a gelato, an ice cream from industry has vegetable fat, that will affect your throat. Right. But when we have a throat surgery in Italy, the doctor will make you eat ice cream, because you need to keep cold. It's like drinking a cold juice or a cold milk shake. So there's no chemical inside the gelato. No man-made ingredients inside of gelato. It's pure products.
I see. Okay. So
see people who are reluctant, and they will say, no, this is not what I expected. But I never know if they come back and try again. Obviously, we cannot like everything to everyone. We have. Otherwise, it would be too easy to, and so, there's nothing I can do about it, or no one can do about it. Has always eaten in his life, not being exposed to a foreign country or travels, is what they consider is very bland. Right. But it's not bland, it's flavorful. So Indian food, if you remove the chili and the spices, it would be as flavorful as Italian food.
Right.
But because of the weather conditions, hygienic conditions through the centuries, to conserve food, you had to add the spices. In Italy too, we started to add salt to maintain fish. Otherwise without chili,
Right.
without ice or without
It'll
chili,
spoil.
it would spoil. Or we have started to add some peppers, in our food. When the travelers were coming back from Asia, they introduced the pepper to Italian cuisine. So Indians has a rich background of food, and it has one of the richest food and cuisine of the world, comparatively to Italians. So Italians, Japanese, some other foods which have their culture is very much blended with their food. It's part of this group of countries. So exposing an Indian to an Italian food, it's tough. It's very tough. But there are some things we have to understand. For example, when we also have a chain of restaurants called Milano Pizza, and when we make some food for Indians, we always have to keep in mind that, for example, they will like a little bit more gravy. The pasta a little bit more saucy. So instead, if you eat pasta in Italy, it won't be saucy. It will be dry. We have other things, soups and other things with saucy pasta, but pasta will be dry. But in India, you have to do a little saucy. Or when you serve a chicken steak, you have to give a little gravy. When you anything, you have to blend, you have to serve, but you don't have to change the flavors. I can't put chili in vegetables because in Italy, chili in vegetables they don't exist as a recipe. Or we can't have. We have the use of chili only in some parts of Italy, South Italy, but generally, we don't put chili in our food. We put a hint of pepper, we do, but not chili.
Right.
So it's a little difficult. So for gelato, I try to do chili chocolate,
Right.
but it doesn't sell because people coming to a gelato place, they want something fresh, light, more familiar to what they're used to eat in India. So we found that the most traditional flavors in Italy are the ones that are also liked by Indians.
Right. I see.
That's very unusual, right? In different parts of Bangalore and India.
Right.
And each store has its own unique of customers. Indranagar, I would say, is the one where the customers that have the highest number of travels, exposure. They travel. They've been at least one family member in Indranagar live abroad, so they've been exposed.
Right.
Jayanagar is the most traditional one. It's a pure vegetarian place. Customers, they come, we adapt to their own way.
Right.
So it's even difficult, with other staff working in Jayanagar from other parts of Bangalore, of Karnataka. They're very traditional. Then you go places like Church Street, and in Church Street, for example, is it's a young crowd.
They'll be willing to try things,
It's completely different. Then you go to Cochin. Cochin is very different crowd. Because Cochin, they are exposed but more to Middle Eastern flavors. They're more traditional, more conservative, so some expenses and everything. So it's completely different. So we have a huge background of cultural customers. Huge, I would say.
Right.
And it's very diverse, and I'm very happy because I can see when I enter ice creams in Indranagar, the way people wear, and if I go to Jayanagar, the way people dress. I never seen a sari in Indranagar, but I see plenty of saris in Jayanagar. Or if you go to Church Street, it's again different.
Right.
In Church Street, it's really, you find people with the most expensive handbags. I'm a woman, so I look at handbags. Most expensive handbags, and then you find also someone who's coming with very humble clothes. So it's a diverse, and it's it gives my husband and I a huge satisfaction on that.
And I think a huge factor is the food and how you priced it and how the place is, because that makes it so much more welcoming for people to come in.
Yeah.
Some places they just look so expensive that it makes
Exactly.
a lot of people think not entering the place, right?
Yes.
That to walk in itself is a barrier.
Yeah. So one of the things we have for 10 years, we open stores without architects. So we open stores out of our taste and trying to be as close to the Italian look.
Right.
Because every architect whom we met was just offering things which were looking not Italian and very expensive from outside. So we said, let's put a place very basic.
Because then it's
and
more accessible.
it's more accessible, you know.
And I think it's very nice. It's very homely.
It has to be, you know, it has to be, what it has to be special is the food, the color, the cookies. This has to be like a neighborhood store. I don't want it to become one of those specialty places where you feel a little distance and, you know, it's a... But now we have found a set of architects and one of them has studied in Italy. So she has studied interior design in Italy, so she knows what's an Italian gelateria. So we made a store in Coramangala and now we are opening 2 more stores with them, and I think that they came across the same. Actually, we are opening one in Whitefield, just behind Palm Meadows. You know where there is Kai schools? Natura Halle Road, behind Palm Meadows. That road. So coming from Indranagar, just before getting to Mariah Rose, you take a left.
Yes.
And then you enter there. We are
So
there.
inside the same place where they have that other one.
The yoga, paper and pie.
Paper and pie.
Before.
Okay.
You stay in Palm Meadows.
In Windmills.
In Windmills. So coming from Windmills,
Yeah.
you go towards Naturally, towards